Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again. Today on Meaning, we're going to be talking about something that's very meaningful to me, and that's some pain that I've gone through in my life that led me to my meaningful career and different perspectives. In that, I see things differently now because of the pain that I've gone through. And that's kind of one thing I want you guys to take away from today is the pain that we go through can sometimes shift our perspective so that things that were otherwise invisible to us before are now seen as beautiful. To hold on, to keep the faith, and to keep fighting through this thing called life. So I'll get right to it. When I was 19 years old, I was serving a mission for my church down in Mexico, and I was in the mountainous region. We had a day off, and long story short, I was hiking with some of the other fellow missionaries, and some ground gave way below me as we were hiking, and I slid off a ledge and did a free fall of about 30 to 35 feet off a cliff backwards. I broke my back. I broke a bunch of ribs. I broke my leg in half. And when I say I broke my back, I mean I shattered my back to the point where after rolling down the hill another 50 yards, I could see that my leg was snapped in half and I couldn't feel anything. And I was conscious the whole time. So I remember thinking that if I can look down my leg and it's that messed up and mangled and I can't feel it, then something is really off. The other missionaries came down to kind of support me. A few of them took off to the little local village to get help, and I was up on that hill for about 3 hours until I was put on a stretcher, hiked down the hill into an ambulance to the local health clinic that they had there. They didn't have much, and then transferred to another hospital to a major city in the area. This is all while conscious and with a broken back, ribs, and a broken leg. I underwent surgery in Mexico to repair parts of my back. They kind of had to, they couldn't completely fix it, but it was more about stabilizing me until they could get me back to the States. A week after that back surgery in Mexico, they moved me up to the States, to Southern California, where I grew up and where I was from. And in Southern California, in San Diego, I underwent an additional close to 20 hours of surgery. That was to further repair my back and my leg. So I'm all covered in metal. I got metal at all different places of my body. At that point, the diagnosis was paralysis. So they said that my spinal cord wasn't severed, but it was cut. It was damaged, but it wasn't completely severed. It was more like it was pinched. And they said, we don't know what this recovery is going to look like, but it's not looking good. At that point, I was still encouraged. I still had a lot of support. I still had a lot of people coming to visit me, encouraging me. But I'm sure there's many of you out there that would be able to relate to this. It's when nighttime hits. It's when the dark comes that a lot of that darkness not only comes from outside, but it starts to penetrate the mind, and you start thinking very dark things. A lot of hopelessness, a lot of bitter anger towards God and towards the world for what had happened to me. I went through a lot in that hospital. I went through a lot in that hospital room at night, wrestling with God, wrestling with myself. And I started to go down that path of bitterness and anger. It's hard not to, especially in these dark moments when you feel like there's no escape from your pain. But then I realized where that's going to lead me to. And I didn't know exactly where, but I knew that it was not going to be good. So I did, I think, what was for me psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually the hardest thing to ever do, which was to surrender my will to a higher power. You know, very often in Alcoholics Anonymous and in any kind of addiction group, that's one of the first steps, is to recognize you're powerless. It's not that you're powerless to change anything, but there are certain things in your life that you just have to submit to and surrender to. So I surrendered my will to God. And what I asked for was the strength to live a meaningful life, even if I would never walk again. And that was a turning point for me. It's not like everything suddenly became better or all my pain was gone. And I was in a lot of pain. But it was more of, I felt a sense of control, even though it's strange. It's paradoxical, where I give up control, but because of that, I gained control. And I think it was because I gained a control over my attitude and my approach to, well, what I was facing. I started going through physical rehab process. I was in the hospital for about 2.5 months, fighting off infection, learning how to live my life as a handicapped individual, as someone who would never walk again. Because at that point, I still couldn't move anything. Even though they did all these surgeries, they said, well, we've given you the best shot, but we don't know if you'll ever move anything again. Until the morning of my 20th birthday, I wake up, and what I believe to be a miracle, I woke up to find that I could actually move my big toe. Imagine this is my big toe. I looked down and I could move my big toe. And it was a miracle for me. And it may be foolish to believe in divine providence or the intervention of the divine in our lives, but not for me. I don't chalk that up as a coincidence. I think there was some kind of order to that. The reason that I got my movement back on the morning of my 20th birthday. And that was it. That was the spark. That was the spark I needed to really put my full energy and focus and force into doing everything I could to learn how to walk again. A few years go by after that initial spark of movement, and I move to a wheelchair. I go into a walker, can walk with a walker, with a lot of assistance, by the way. 2 arm crutches, 2 canes. I'm now walking with 1 cane. And I have a decent limp, but I walk with a cane and I wear some leg braces, but I can get around pretty well. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because about a month ago I hit my 20-year mark of my accident. And what was interesting is that now I've lived more time being injured or disabled or handicapped, whatever term you prefer. I've lived more time that way than I did before my accident. And I'm telling you this to hopefully instill some hope. I was lucky enough, by the way, to get some movement back. And I'm fully aware that there are people out there who are injured permanently and they won't get movement back. But I'm just telling you, anyone that is out there listening, that if you hold on to hope and faith, and as Teddy Roosevelt said, when you feel like you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. If you can hold on tight, just wait and see what happens. See what can happen. You never know. I'm a World War II fanatic. I love reading about World War II. I know it's stereotypical. Guys reach, a middle-aged and they get a smoker and they get really into World War II. Guilty. That's me. But I love World War II, and one of the reasons I love World War II history is because a lot of these men who served in the war and did unbelievable things, as men and women, they came home and a lot of them just wanted to live a peaceful life. They've had their adventure. They've seen how ugly life could be. Now, that's not to say all of them came home and just lived a very quaint and quiet life. A lot of them became very powerful congressmen, in the world of business, influential, all that kind of stuff. But the ones I really admire are the ones that go through war and they come home, they just want to farm. They just want to live a peaceful, quiet life. And I really connect with that. I've gone through my own version of hell. I've had my own personal war. And that is all I want. I just want to live a quiet and peaceful life. And this goes back to the beginning of what I was talking about. Very often, the things that make up a meaningful life are invisible to us until we have the benefit, and it's strange to think of it, until we have the privilege of pain. Pain privileges us with a different perspective if we allow it to. If we allow the pain to change our perspective of what is beautiful, what is to be appreciated, we can start to live more meaningfully. And I'll close with this. On the 20-year mark of my accident, about a month ago, my mom, I completely forgotten about this. I wasn't even aware that it was the anniversary of my accident, 20-year mark. My mom texted me that night with a very beautiful and heartfelt message. Honey, it's been 20 years. Oh my gosh, you've accomplished so much. It was very nice and caring. But I didn't even realize it because it was a Saturday and I was really busy with other things. And it just kind of hit me, and I turned to my wife and I'm like, whoa, it's 20 years. And I felt prompted to write down some of my thoughts. And so I want to share those with you to highlight that once you've been through something really difficult, the pain that you may feel, it can shift your perspective if you allow it to, so then you see the beautiful in the ordinary. So you can see the meaningful in the mundane. So I carry these little books around with me all the time. These little moleskin books. I love these things. This is my form of journaling. And in here, I wrote some thoughts from that day. So I'll end with that. April 5th, 2024. Today marks the 20th anniversary of my accident I suffered when I fell off a cliff in Puebla, Mexico as a missionary for my church. Today was such a busy and filled day that I didn't even realize the significance of the day until my mom texted me late that night. I felt it meaningful to record what I did today as a way to reflect on not only how far I've come, but to see the astounding beauty of my life in the ordinary. I ate bagels made by my wife. I hugged and kissed my wife. As a family, we cleared out the small barn we have in our backyard, loaded up a yard trailer, and I took my 2 sons, their friends, and my daughter to the local dump here in Springville to empty the trailer. I dropped the boys off at McDonald's with their friends. They were going to walk home after they wolfed down their Big Macs, no doubt. I listened to my wife think out loud and ask for help on a paper she is writing for her social work college course. Georgie, my other daughter, cried because she didn't get any McDonald's, so she, of course, got a special trip to go get her own Happy Meal. I took the boys to the batting cages. We had a great time together. On the way home, we stopped and washed my red truck. For dinner, we had egg rolls, noodles, and after putting the girls down, we showed the boys Jurassic Park for the first time. Everyone remembers the first time they've seen Jurassic Park. And Teddy, my 8-year-old, kept reassuring us he was not scared. My wife and I showed each other a few funny short videos we had saved, an almost nightly tradition as she finished pulling out of the oven 2 gorgeous loaves of homemade sourdough bread. This is a glimpse of my beautiful life. A glimpse that myself 20 years ago would have been relieved and encouraged to see. It really goes to show you that even though it may be dark, to keep going, because you may just make it through to the other side, to a life so beautiful it's almost blinding. I wanted to share that with you because I've seen not only in my own life, but in the lives of others that I work with as a therapist, to hold on. When you feel like you're at the end of that rope, tie a knot and hold on. If you can hold on long enough, you just may find a life that is so beautiful, even beautiful in the ordinary and meaningful in the mundane, that it may be blinding to you.